Okay, so we're asking a dumb SEO question. Each week we answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Alistair Lattimore. Alistair is Head of Search for the What If group of companies in Australia. Karthik Bidai from Punjab in India. He's CEO of a company, Wikitech Guru. He's proud to call himself an SEO and also a web developer. Micah Fisher, oh no, sorry, Masataki Wasa is, webmaster of wasaweb.net. I'm sorry, Masataki, the brain froze. And he's also a top contributor on the Google AdSense forum and the Google Plus Help community. Senior SEO manager of Zazzle.com and purveyor of 32 million products so far, and boasting 120 million pages on the internet, is Micah Fisher-Kirshner. Tim Capper. Tim Capper is, according to Tim's biography, which I just read a moment ago, he is the world's greatest conversion rate optimization specialist. He's proud to call himself an SEO, the last of the world's great lovers, and a confidant of Vladimir Putin. Okay. Our first question tonight is from Anne DeVos. Anne asks a question. He says, "Hi, with my online retail store, I previously used shopping comparison sites. Here in Australia, that's shopping.com.au, and he's still using getprice.com.au. These sites show up in search engine results pages, and the sites include a snippet of my product descriptions, which appear next to each of my products on these sites. Even the one that I don't use anymore still shows the items with the deal not available next to it. Given that they are repeating part of my product descriptions, do you think that they are negatively affecting the SEO ranking of my site as a result of duplicate content? And is that enough warrant asking them to remove the items totally?" We'll also cover another question with this because it's pretty much the same. Craig Campbell asks, should I take a store live with part duplicate content? He said, "I'm currently working on an e-commerce site. I've uploaded the products and product descriptions for my drop shipper. I know Google will penalise for duplicate content. My question is, I have been changing the product descriptions daily with original content at the rate of about 20 a day. Will this affect me, being that my site still has some duplicate content? If so, what is the best way to do this? Should I wait to make the store live until all descriptions are altered and the new content is done? Thanks."
All right. I'll jump on this one since I worked at a CSE as the SEO there. Yeah, you want to generally avoid sending the same product description over to them. It's harmful actually for both ends. It's bad for you and it's bad for the comparison shopping engine. You don't want to have the duplicate content over there. Now, if it's such that you're only providing a small, very small snippet, it's not that harmful for you, but you generally want to provide a kind of a different set of content to a third party if you're going to do that, because you really want to try to make your site as unique and value add as possible. So that's kind of the first part. If you have a page that in a snippet of it, just a small portion is duplicate, that's not going to be harmful because Google will recognize, oh, okay, there's more information on this page that is unique. But as a whole, I generally like to make sure that any of the content that I'm sending to a third party, like a CSE, is going to be separate and unique from what's on our site.
Okay. It's been so long since I spoke of the first question, it's gone from my head. I'm not sure if we've actually covered that one. Well, first,
I think that covers off the first one. I think Craig's question for the second one, he's saying he's uploaded the same product descriptions from the vendor, like the manufacturer, for instance, onto his site. Should he launch his site with duplicate content that other vendors might have as well, other e-commerce sites, or should he wait until he's written unique product descriptions for all of those products at 20 pages per day, for instance, that he's going through it? I would tend to think that you'll find a huge number of e-commerce sites carrying the same descriptions for just pretty standard products, just in general. So, if you're really worried about it, launch the site and no index the products that you haven't that have got duplicate content. If you're really, really worried about it, I would tend to think that for a new site, it's probably not going to make a great deal of difference. But you should continue doing what you're doing with making sure you've got good content that's unique, relevant, descriptive of the products and so forth, that and trying to make your pages and site more valuable to a searcher than someone that's carrying the generic content that the manufacturer has provided.
Yep.
Yeah, with a new site also, it's going to take a while for it to be found anyway. If you don't submit a sitemap, it's going to take a while anyway, which is going to give you breathing space on your 20-a-day updates. And you'll probably find that by the time you've actually finished them, submit your sitemap, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so summing up, would it be fair to say to Craig, he should jump in now, the water's fine, and to Andevos, it's not a good thing to have the comparison sites using the same copy as him. Sound reasonable? Didn't one of us go to the trouble of doing a site not so far away? They went through and changed all of the copy and received a huge bounce from it. No, I must agree with that. Okay. All right. Question number 3 on your run list is from Laurie Turnbull. Wants to know, will changing the preferred domain in Google Webmaster Tools negatively impact the URLs for a subdomain in the index? This is not the www subdomain. He's talking about another subdomain unrelated to the root domain. He says, hi there, I have a question if you don't mind. I have a client who currently has both the www and root domain separately within the Google index. The preferred domain has not been set in Google Webmaster Tools, and they do not currently implement 301s or canonical tags. As part of a site migration project, I want to set the preferred domain to www and 301 all the root domain pages to their www counterparts. All good. However, they also have a second subdomain, which is an entirely separate website in its own right, with no duplicate content. I'm concerned that by setting the www subdomain as the preferred canonical URL, this will negatively impact the URLs for the subdomain in the index. Is there any best practice advice available for this? Here's Laurie.
So this is not going to impact Laurie's site. So basically, setting the preferred domain for the root domain to be www, and then subsequently redirecting the 301 redirects the root domain to the www counterparts. That's one piece of the puzzle, and it'll act on its own and independent. What you might do on, secure subdomain or cars.domain.com or whatever the other subdomain is separate entirely to what you do on the main domain. So it should have no impact.
Excellent. I think we can call that an answer unless anybody wants to add to it. Okay. Question 4 is from Girish Kapoor. Can we change a Google Plus personal page into a brand page or business page? He goes on to say, I have a client that set up their own G Plus personal page, and now he wants to change it into a brand page or business page. How would I set up authorship? Any and all advice is greatly appreciated.
The simple answer is no. You cannot convert a Google Plus profile representing a person into a Google Plus page, whether it's brand or local, that represents a thing. You can't do that. So he will have to create a new brand page. If it's a local, then make sure it's a local page rather than a brand page. But to answer the question again, no.
And I think we'll say that the answer is no. All right, here's another one from Girish. Does the Google algorithm rank websites with .com.au higher than .net.au?
No, I don't think so. Google are pretty, I think, agnostic about that. The domain, I think, unless you were using some sort of a crappy domain, maybe like a .biz or something like that that might get spammed heavily. I don't think there's any bias really towards the domain you use.
Yeah, there are exceptions to kind of those rules, but that's only like if like a set group of domains is spammed like crazy. I think sometimes .info has been the case, but usually just because it's a .com versus .net, those TLDs, they won't make a difference.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Girish, your answers so far are no and no. Here's another one from Girish. What is the significance of Google's safe browsing visiting frequency? I hope you guys know what this is. He says, how to prevent Google indexing our own IP address pages. Recently, I have two questions, and I need you pro guys. I need help from you professionals. Any suggestions will be appreciated. One, Google Safe Browsing shows the last time Google visited my site was the 2nd of July 2014, 1 month ago. But Webmaster Tools show Google visited my site every day. So my question is, which one is right? Is there any significance of the Google Safe Browsing? And the second part of his question is, in Google Webmaster Control Panel, links to your site shows that there are over 800 links that are from our IP address. All these links are our site pages. So I'm afraid that if there is a serious issue due to these links, which is accounted in backlinks by Google. My question is how to prevent Google indexing our own IP address pages. I've already made these links in 301 redirection, but Google still indexes a few of them.
So the safe browsing thing from Google is a service they've got that checks sites for malware, phishing, etc. And then third-party applications can call on this API to check whether or not the site is, basically safe, so to speak. The fact that the safe browsing has got one date and Google Webmaster Tools shows a different set of data, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I would pay more attention to Google Webmaster Tools. And the data even that's in Webmaster Tools has got a lag on it as well. So neither of those things are effectively real time in terms of their reflection of what's actually happening right now on your website. And by the sounds of what Girish is saying, the safe browsing API might be lagged a little further again. In terms of the Webmaster Tools links to his site from the IP address, that's kind of related. So if Girish has implemented the 301 redirects properly from the IP address to the equivalent page on the actual domain that he wants to use, they'll fall out of the index in due course and subsequently also out of Google Webmaster Tools. The reason they're still in there at the moment is, like I just said before, the data that shows up in Webmaster Tools has got a lag on it. It could be 2 weeks behind or 3 weeks behind, you know, what Google is actually processing today versus what's actually showing up in the tool. So, you know, I would expect that, say, within a month, you would start to see the number of pages or links showing up from the IP address to progressively start to fall. A good proxy for this might be if you keep an eye on the search results. If you do a site : IP address in Google, and then as you start to see the number of the indexed pages fall that are indexed against the IP address, once that reaches 0, as an example, or close to 0, you know, you should expect that within, you know, a fortnight or a month of that happening, you know, you should probably start to see those data vanish out of Webmaster Tools, I would expect.
Cool. Excellent. All right, Girish, I hope you're happy with that. Valentina Huff. Valentina has a question that is titled, if there's a website that has pages with www and without www, will that affect SEO ranking?
Hello. Yes, of course it affects on your rankings because Google treat both www and www domains um, not equally. These are, for example, if you have a website with www.com and without www.com, Google will treat both with copied content. Okay, for example. For example, I have a website with www as homepage and its subdomain is without www.com. So if I am running both websites with same content, okay, so Google will filter as a duplicate content on without www and with www. So
Okay, Kartik. No, Mr. Taki, it was quiet. I mean, I'm partly deaf anyway, so I'm fairly used to that. Okay. All right. Look, for Valentina Huff, would it be true to say, Kartik, that a good solution would be, say, canonical links from the non-www to the www site? And a 301 redirect from the non-www to the www, and also setting it as a preferred domain in Google Webmaster Tools?
Yeah, pretty much. In terms of it actually affecting the ranking directly, whether you use www or not is not going to make any difference. Obviously, you see websites all the time rank with the root domain, and plenty rank using the www, just like you see plenty rank with HTTP, and now more and more HTTPS ranks just fine as well. So what you're using in that regard is not going to make any difference. The important thing, like Jim said, is that you pick one, whichever one you want to use, and then use it consistently everywhere. So merge the ones that you don't want into your preferred version using either rel canonical tags, 301 redirects, and then also set the preferred domain in Webmaster Tools.
Excellent. And yes, Kartik, if you want to put something on the chat, I'll relay it for you, but there is a problem with your microphone volume. It is really quiet. Okay, next question is from David Kovacs. David says, after changing my website URL from www to www, I should say, from non-www, the page authority dropped to 0. I realised that the page authority, as listed on moz.com, dropped to 0 on all of the pages. Why is that? Is it going to catch up later? I haven't seen any drop in traffic or rankings but I'm curious about this. I changed it in Google Webmaster Tools about a month ago. Many thanks in advance.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind Moz is a separate tool system, so if you're not experiencing a drop in ranking, it's not a big deal. It may just be that their tool hasn't caught up, or to kind of see that switch. It may be that they just don't look at non-dub-dub-dubs. Without knowing the specific details for that, I can't go into the exact reasonings. But generally, if you've done the switch properly and all that set up, then it's just potentially a matter of time for the Moz tool to recognize that.
Okay. I'm going to call that an answer for David, and let's go to one from TechBlog Corner, number 9 on your run list. He wants to know, is it true Google is testing a timeline version of the knowledge graph? He gives a URL which can be seen on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and wants to know if you guys have any comment on it.
I've never come across that yet. The example that he gave on his website showing a timeline of events.
I guess it's one of those things that's probably still happening in the US, and Micah gets everything before us.
I'm special.
Yes.
I used a proxy server and went to 3 or 4 different servers in the States, and I still couldn't replicate the examples he had given. So I don't know if it's a test that was caught at a particular point, but I couldn't replicate any of it.
I think they were testing some stuff.
Yeah. So I couldn't replicate it, and even if they do roll it out, it'll be months before it even turns up in the UK. So.
They're certainly doing something, because some of my clients, one day they'll have the knowledge graph, next day it'll be totally disappeared. Other times it'll just be a snippet of the information that there. So there must be something going on, and that's what I see here in Australia. All right, that's all we know, TechBlog Corner. I'm sorry about that. Next is one from Niraj Kumar. Is there any solution to get the AdSense account with the same email ID? I've created a Google AdSense account when I created my blog, but I was disapproved. Perhaps because my blog is in Hindi and I filled it. I filled in the English in the language field. Is there any solution to get the AdSense account with the same email ID?
Well, you can submit the same blog, but your email address is attached to an application with a certain site. So that's why if you wish to apply with another site, then you will have to use another email ID. I'm not 100% sure how it works with Blogger, because you apply via Blogger, the earnings tab, if you have your blog hosted by Blogger. And there's of course an issue that Hindi is not a supported language by AdSense, so you cannot apply for AdSense with a blog whose main or primary language is Hindi.
Can you expand on that, Masataki? Did I hear right? You can't apply for AdSense on a Hindi language website? You
can, because Hindi is not supported by AdSense.
Oh, I see.
So there are certain languages that are supported by AdSense, and unfortunately Hindi is not among them. So that's a problem in itself. And then there's the issue. That's sort of one issue. But the other issue is that when you apply for an AdSense account, you submit an email address, and that's attached to an application, and that application is attached to a particular site. And
Excellent.
if you wish to repeat, sorry, if you wish to apply for another site, then you will have to use another email address.
Thank you, Mr. Darkey. All right, next one, question 11 on your run list from J. Lee Butilia. He asks, what is a CDN and how will it be helpful for SEO?
So, a CDN is a content distribution network. The simple version of this is they're an intermediate service that you can put assets onto, so like images, CSS, JavaScript, video files, for instance, to physically get those files closer to your visitors. So an easy way to think about this is, imagine if all of Google's assets around the world were always hosted in the US. People on the other side of the world would have comparatively slow access to those, to google.com or whatever, while people in the US would have very, very fast access to it. Google get around this by having lots of data centers, and they basically bring Google closer and closer to people around the world. CDN is a way for normal people to do this, where they put their assets inside a CDN that distributes them closer to your customers around the world. In terms of it being helpful for SEO, it'll make your page and your site load faster. So that's a consideration because load time is a performance factor for Google as a ranking factor. So, you know, Google say all other things being created equal, a fast site will outrank a slow site, essentially. So, you know, it's in your interest to have a nice fast site. It's also in your interest for your users as well, because users like fast sites convert better as well. There's lots of research around that says that's the case as well. So there's no reason to, you know, not pursue it. That being said, most websites, depending on where they're hosted and who they're targeting, probably don't need to use a CDN. You can do a lot of optimization on your own site, just using your own standard web hosting, and make your site very fast. It's not until probably you've got special requirements or you're a very large website that a CDN is really going to come into its own and deliver good bang for your buck. If you did want to test it out though, Jay, you could look into a service like Cloudflare. I think you can run your a small website, for instance, through Cloudflare, and it costs you nothing, I think, for personal use or something like that, or it's very, very cheap, and they'll accelerate your site as well, with not just a CDN but a raft of other functionality.
Cool. Okay, that's a really good answer, Alistair. I was not expecting much to come of that question. Niraj Kumar asks, how to tell search engines that I have profiles on every social media platform? More power to you, Niraj. One thought has come in my mind, and I want to share with you all as well as want to ask whether it is possible. I have so many profiles on so many platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, SlideShare, Writing.com, About Me, and etc. Is it possible to make a text or word profile with all the profiles and submit to search engines to tell them that all of them are me?
Well, if all of them had the same information, the same name, same, you know, information, the search engines would eventually figure that one out.
There are explicit ways to do this as well, though. if in your Google profile you can add related sites and things like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do in your Google profile is link to a site and then basically say that this is me, so to speak. This is my site. This is me on this website, so to speak. Google do this using a structured markup language called XFN, and essentially it's a way to express relationships between links. To basically say the thing I'm linking to is me, or they're a friend, or they're a business acquaintance, or something of that nature. So Google support XFN notation in the links, so there is an explicit way for you to link, explicitly tell Google that you're you all across the internet. So you could do it from your Google profile, or on any other site you want as well. So for instance, on your personal site, let's say you've got a personal blog, you could link to yourself, your profile, on 15 other websites with XFN notation, and Google will understand that.
Yeah, and just going from what Alistair said, also in your Google Plus profile, your personal Google Plus profile, there's a section in there called links, and there's a specific section for other profiles. So just go and fill that whole thing in. Add all. I mean, you said every single social media. I don't know how many that is, but if it's 50, go and put all 50 of your, But of course, make sure that they're the same name and similar kind of stuff, and then just chuck them all in there, and Google will figure that all out.
Yep, it sounds good to me, and I hope that's good for you too, Niraj. Next is a question from Nikhil Gabda. He says, which link building tactics do you think are still good? As for me, I don't think there are any left, but I'd like to know what the experts think about it.
I mean, link building tactics it all depends on kind of what the main goal of it is. If you're going for kind of as a comprehensive strategy of a whole promotional thing, and this just happen to be a part of it, without specifically trying to ask and go for it, that's fine. If these are links that are driving for traffic and it's not paid for, also okay. So there's tactics that are acceptable, but kind of what Google and search engines generally don't want to see is you only doing things for link building purposes with the implied consent of PageRank and trying to rank higher directly, and really kind of only focusing on that. So that's one of the things to keep in mind when it comes to link building. And so there's lots of tactics that then are acceptable in terms of you trying to earn links or trying to creatively influence people to get links without directly pushing and saying you have to get those links.
Excellent. I was lucky enough to be on a hangout, a link building hangout earlier this evening, run by the inimitable Dan Petrovic, and a couple of things I picked up from it, some absolutely brilliant tactics, I thought. One was to do a reverse image search for the site's logo or any collateral on the site. Look, I tested this on a couple of domains, and it is amazing. There'll be lots of cases where the site's logo is mentioned and the site is mentioned, but there's no actual link. And so it should then be an easy thing to, well, an easier thing anyway, because the reference is already there. It just needs the encouragement of the webmaster to provide an actual physical link. Dan Petrovic, we're just talking about you.
Oh, really?
But just saying that great idea of yours, of using reverse image search.
Yeah, that's pretty old school idea, I suppose.
We're actually just asking a question, just answering a question, I should say, which was which link building tactics do you think are still good? As for me, there are none left, but I'd like to know what the experts think.
I can tell you what my favorite tactic is. It would be sitting and not asking and not begging for any links, and links just happening on their own. That's really nice. And when that happens, it's I'm gonna have to get rid of it. Yeah. That's why I mentioned. It's a ragdoll. Yeah, I mean, it has to be kind of like. What do you call it when the planets align? Planetary alignment, or is it? A few criteria need to be met, I suppose. One is you have to be of significance, of certain level of significance as a brand or an individual.
So basically, you're saying. So basically, you're saying, I'm there. I've made it. I just sit back now.
What I'm
I am it. And you're more than welcome to link to me, and that's my Linkbait strategy for the rest of my life. I've done the hard work, and now everyone wants to link to me. You love me, I love me.
This is why I joined these hangouts, to be made fun of, I suppose. But the true challenge is, and what people keep telling me, it's like, yeah, okay, but do that for your clients. And that's where the real problem is, because how do you? So I suppose our role as SEOs is to advise our clients, hold their hand, guide them through the process. To either, some of them simply don't want to be exposed as individuals. So either build a persona or build a brand, or combination of those things. So you have to have a person, brand, content. Once you have those things aligned, link building is a lot easier. I'm not saying that you should just sit and wait for the links to happen passively. There are so many things you can do to push the process, like we explained before. But a lot of things wouldn't work as well if you were just nobody. But that brings us to the question: how do you get to that initial level in the first place? And I must say branding, because when I was just starting out in business, what I would do is I would go to trade shows and put my banner up in front of as many people as I could. I was buying display ads. I was just showing the brand everywhere, and I think video helped a lot to create a personal brand. So being in front of many people helps the process. So what's the best link building method when you don't have to build links? But to get to that level, you have a few years of hard work. I'm talking 12-hour days with very, very little other stuff in your life. Just focus. Not everyone can do that. And Tim is saying all these videos I produced I can no longer access because YouTube shut down my account for all that original content.
Gone forever.
No, I'm not going to burst into another rant. No, we'll leave that for some other time.
This time YouTube, tomorrow will be Australia's government, one of the two.
Tell you what, Dan, you should switch your accounts to Spain, mate, and then just take it to court there, because the Spanish courts are not bothered about slapping Google when they deserve it.
We'll see how Australia takes it.
Yeah, so
I still haven't had any replies from anyone.
If Australia can't handle it, transfer it to Spain, mate. They'll sort it out for you.
Deal. Sounds really good. Speaking of link building methods and branding and stuff, I just spoke to a journalist, or corresponded with a journalist from I think Sydney Morning Herald. Or she's investigating the Mars One campaign and how that's going. It looks like those guys are not going to collect enough funds to send people to Mars. But here's a great example of how brand building helps, and I guess links happen as a byproduct. So she was interested in how I got involved in that, and she wanted to find out how much money I actually paid as the sponsor. I couldn't tell her that because it was asked not to. But okay, so imagine Mars One just starting off. Nobody believes them, and you're one of the first sponsors that's breaking ice for the initiative. See, whether they send people to Mars or not is more or less irrelevant from the marketing point of view, because I was certain that this was going to cause a huge media hype. And probably 6 months down the track after I decided to sponsor these guys, he ended up on New York Times, on all major TV stations and newspapers. Even I was interviewed for ABC here in Australia, in Melbourne. So sponsorships and branding can cause a lot of, and of course all these interviews and things, they all ended up being links. So recognizing an early opportunity can be great for link building. Quite recently, what I've done, and maybe I've mentioned this in one of our earlier hangouts, Indiegogo and Kickstarter campaigns. You find somebody who's just about made it, but not quite a celebrity, and then you go and you reach out to them and you say, how can I help your Kickstarter campaign? Tell me what to do. I've got this company, I've got a blog, let's write, So you survey this. You can't go like proper celebrity level, but you can find somebody on the verge, because they'll be quite keen to assist themselves in the process of fundraising. So when it gets to that stage, you interview the person, you feature them on your blog, you say nice things about the project, a little bit of a ego boost as well. And what happens? These individuals might have 20,000 followers on Twitter, and if you do write something nice about them on your blog, they'll tweet that, and that's how you get that exposure through these what I call borderline celebrities. And Kickstarter and Indiegogo and that type of campaigns are great because these people are really eager to collaborate and get interviews going and stuff like that. So that's another one of my favorite link building tactics that actually works quite nicely.
There was also another one, Dan, and that's locate a blogger with a high following and try and enlist him to produce content. Oh, Dan's bolted away, so I'll cover this. But one of the tips in this hangout was that, or you can tell us, Dan. No?
Basically, we're talking about commissioning a high-profile blogger or an expert in industry to write for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever they might cost. We've had instances where they might cost $200 an article. Some might cost $500 an article, but more or less it's worth it, because if you pay a journalist or an expert on topic, so let's say. What subject did I mention in our earlier hangout? Was home automation and smart homes, right? So if you find somebody who's really prominent in that industry and they're not going to write for free, so you pay them, they write on your blog and they go, tweet, look, I just wrote a new article, cool. So you're basically not just paying them for the article, you're buying your way into their social network. Of course, you can't order them to tweet. So you're taking a little bit of risk there. But what's the worst case scenario? You can end up with a great article on your site, right? Written by somebody prominent. So one thing to remember doing that is to make sure that the authorship is working. So you'll at least get a link from their Google Plus profile to get the authorship going. And I think most reasonable authors will comply with that sort of request.
Excellent.
Yeah,
okay.
and I suppose it's also just grasping that opportunity. I mean, just a totally random thing, which still benefits a friend of mine in terms of links every single year for the last 15 years. When when eBay first started kicking off, when it was just kicking off, he ended up getting married, but then basically catching his wife in bed with his best mate just before the honeymoon. And his attitude was, well, I'm going to give this eBay a shot and eBay her half of the honeymoon. So basically eBayed half of the honeymoon. There was interviews, there was newspapers, I mean, everywhere, all around the world, because this is the first kind of eBay sort of like little bit of a storm. And for years, every year, year on year, those links keep building. So it's also a little bit of the right place, the right time, and just thinking about getting it out there at the right, at the right moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if getting it out there is the right choice of words for the subject in hand, but that's a good story anyway, Tim. Okay, let's move on from link building tactics, unless anybody else has something to add. Okay, next I have a question from Hardil Singh. What are the best SEO reporting tools to show the performance of the website on a weekly or monthly basis? Any tool that we can use to show... Oh, that's what he said. Okay. Well, we have to mention SEMrush with the disclosure that SEMrush have given the members of our panel a guru copy of SEMrush for our use. I use it anyway. I think it's great. We've got SEO questions being assessed every week. We're slowly growing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of tools out there depending on your different need levels. As you mentioned, with the disclaimer of SEMrush, if you're looking at the competitive industry as well, there's search metrics. A lot of people like to kind of go through with reporting tools like Bright Edge or Conductor, kind of those types of big tools, or in SEO Clarity. Depending on your size, once you kind of reach certain points, then a lot of the best SEO reporting tools are really the ones that you're internally building or creating. Those kind of are types that then are custom suited to you, and only areas which tools like SEMrush, SEO, search metrics, those things where they're pulling in competitive data that you can't necessarily get, those become kind of the best tools because those are areas that are very difficult to have. And in the same way, you should be looking at a lot of different tools. So it's not just pure overall reporting, but as well as different areas which tools provide. So if you're looking at Ahrefs, Majestic SEO for your backlink type of information, those kinds of reporting tools are helpful as well for kind of different areas, not necessarily purely performance, but as a part of what plays into your own performance. So those are things, as an aggregate to be kind of looking at.
I'm surprised that this comes up so often, and that people report on things. Like the obvious thing is to use some sort of analytics package, right? Because ultimately you need to report on the traffic and then the goals that you're meeting for your client. Traffic that doesn't meet business goals is useless in pretty much most instances. So,
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that this question comes up so often when people have got access to either Google Analytics for free, which is very good, or a raft of other analytics packages that are either free or paid, depending on how high-end you need to go.
I think they're really. I would hope that when they're asking something like this, obviously they have their own analytics tools. I think they're looking for what's the yes, the performance when they refer to that is for the most part leading up to my rankings, and then the rankings, of course, the right rankings are the ones that will lead to my conversion. So like that's my analytics system, and I think it's just a view that they need stuff that leads up to their mostly kind of the stuff that impacts the SEO performance, as defined as what impacts my rankings.
Yeah.
And yeah, as Kartik is saying, of course, there's always, which I completely blanked out on, which is having webmaster tools, or is another kind of those whole areas of data sets to be looking at.
You know what would be great, and if somebody from Google is ever, they're probably not going to listen to this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If they could give us access to the query data and everything that we need via an API, that would be fantastic, and we can properly use Google Webmaster Tools to create reports for our client instead of, you know, scraping the data, which means every time they change the HTML, your reporting system is broken. We had this debate today. I'm sitting in the same room with Martin Reed, our head of SEO, who is opposing my idea to use Google Webmaster Tool data, and I can see in the comments there's, you know, Webmaster Tool data provides data from Google directly, and has, you know, more than what some people need. I'd love to use it, but can I really rely on scraping Google? And do I want my staff to send out hundreds of reports per month? Manually downloading from Google Webmaster Tools, that wouldn't be very economic.
The one downside, though, Dehan, to that is that that's, as much as kind of, if Webmaster Tools were provided, people will probably still be scraping Google, because that only provides where you're ranking, not where you've gotten traffic, but not necessarily keywords of which you want to track competitors where you're not at all ranking as of yet, which is also a big function of why people are often scrape Google.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, what Alistair was saying makes sense, but what agency is driven to provide in terms of reporting is very different to what somebody that works in-house might expect an agency to report on, because you have to remember that an agency has to cater to a lot of tastes. So our reporting has to include links, and has to include individual rankings on different keywords, and has to include organic traffic on keywords that don't convert, right? People want to see everything, and they want to see, oh, I'm paying you X amount of money, and I want to see that you've done something for that. They want to see some proof. So whether we like it or not, we still have to provide those types of insights in our reporting. We recently started using natural language to describe situations. So kind of like, I think Google has insights kind of okay done. So we use data from Google Analytics to word sentences and describe data in that way. But it's still a little bit of work in progress. We literally had a meeting about that. And I think the consensus was give people overview of the data at the top, and then go and provide all the detail ranking stuff at the as a sort of appendix at the end, kind of a steering people away from it, so we're not emphasizing that type of stuff in our reports. But yeah, and we had awesome things like we had algorithm data overlaid with impact in rankings for the individual phrases, and people said it's too confusing, so we're not going to have it. And that was pretty cool, because it tells you, okay, Google was busy that day, something happened, so you can correlate impact. But as much as I liked it, it was decided that it should go bye-bye. So ultimately, the ideal reporting system will be made by you and by your programmer, and it'll cater to your client specifically. I have to agree with SEMrush. My guys are using it as well. We've tried a bunch of other things, and eventually, I think most people end up doing their own little thing. So that's what we did.
And you can import Google Webmaster Tools in SEMrush, no? Or some data.
Some.
Sure.
I don't think you can do it. Yeah.
Does most do the same, if you know?
Have you guys played with imports?
I haven't. Suppose what I was thinking about before, Dan, in terms of what clients demand of you, I suppose, as an agency, is it's interesting, right? Because a client will say, you know, I want to make more money on this part of my business. You guys do a whole bunch, or an agency will do a whole bunch of research and say, well, we think this section of this part of the industry that you're interested in is worth pursuing. There's opportunity here for you. But ultimately, you're going to end up doing rank checking for a handful of phrases that's meant to be a litmus for potentially hundreds of phrase variations, right? Because you're not going to go and rank check hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phrases for a client. So the thing then that becomes interesting is that even when you can do that and say, well, look, we can show empirically we've lifted rankings for these phrases, even potentially a very large set of phrases, you can't tie that back to output for the business in terms of business metrics for the business, right? Because 75% of the traffic coming from Google's got no keywords in it. So then you're left to make a decision to say, well, of the 25% of the traffic that does have keywords, I can see the needle moving, which is good. And then what, you know, are you forced to use the 25% as a proxy for the remaining 75% that you don't have? Or do you say, we're driving traffic, we've increased traffic to these key landing pages which cover the topic X, Y, and Z, and the conversions that are coming from these pages as landing pages from organic search are driving these business outcomes for you? Like, how do you approach that?
I can send you my report and you can give me some feedback. I'd love to do that. I'd love to see your report, actually. You being the agent, you being the like the client side, right? In-house. Have you got reports that you send to anyone or make for yourself? What is your first? Obviously, you've made it so your conversions and business goals are first. But they're very specific to a particular business. We have, for example, e-commerce clients, services-based clients. Some of them may have e-commerce set up, so we cater the report to that. Some of them may not. It's really hard to fine-tune a report to everyone's needs, and that's what we've been debating today. So we actually ended up putting goals in conversions as the first thing. And we deleted a lot of individual ranking fluctuations because what's the point? You know, oh, this keyword was here last week and now it's here and now it's there. You know, kind of.
Who cares? Yeah.
Who cares? Exactly. So now we have bar graph histogram showing sort of like visibility, but you know, visibility. Where do you draw that metric? You know. Reach, you know, it's complicated. It's really complicated. I think
we're here of focusing on the of outputs for a business, because I think that like we saw when Google first started pushing not provided, and we had lots of discussions about this in the prior months. You know, that at some point the visibility that businesses and marketers are going to have into organic search is going to continue to decline. At some point it'll be close to zero, right? And I look at an agency, or even myself as an internal role. To me, my role as an internal staff member is to drive business outcomes. If I can get more business outcomes with 1% lift in traffic but a 10% lift in output because I'm just doing better targeting, then that's a good output for me. If, as an agency, you're tasked to effectively do business optimization, through a digital channel. How you get more leads for a client or more e-commerce sales for a client, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. All they want, right, is to have their bottom line move. Unless they're looking to do a pure branding play, for instance, where it's like, I need to be number one for these massively highly visible terms because, God damn it, that's all that matters.
It's not just about that. I think the role of an agency is shifting from, well, has shifted from just ranking shifter or ranking manipulator. Yes, goals and conversions, but our role, for example, now is to publicize content. So whether this content converts directly or not, that's a matter of attribution modeling. I think it's much deeper than a simple report, monthly report. It's beyond that. So I think we have responsibility to demonstrate that content that we've focused on. So we make a conscious decision. All right, we're going to write this, and this type of content to hit these agendas. And then an agenda might be to attract links.
Yep.
Right? So that's a success metric. We've written this post, we've engaged these bloggers, and we've earned 15 organic links to this particular post. Hasn't done anything for the business, but we know that that extra juice flowing through the site has contributed to the overall site's health and well-being. Very intangible, right? Also, you could count referral traffic, and that's what I use that's what I do in Freshlink Finder. I count referral traffic coming through links, and I count that as a metric. So that's another possibility. And then pure branding and exposure. You know, how many times people have seen and read something that a brand has produced online and remember that name. Very hard to quantify branding efforts. So I think an agency still has the responsibility to demonstrate what type of work I've done and how that work has impacted. For example, a post A versus post B may be different in terms of social metrics it's clocked up, right? So one did particularly well on LinkedIn. And if that's visible in report, if you have your content, so okay, so this month we've produced 5 pieces of content, and here's the grid. Here are the metrics: pluses, tweets, LinkedIn. Yep. They're not really business goals, and they'll never bring you any money. They'll not making you any sales unless you directly attribute it to that LinkedIn channel or whatever. But still worth reporting on it because it demonstrates the success of that post and possibly highlights opportunities. For example, if we discover that content B did particularly well on LinkedIn, we go and investigate what happened there. Why did it resonate within LinkedIn users? So wishy-washy, intangible benefits, but we have to kind of embed those elements in the report whether we want it or not, because clients expect to see that we've done something for the money they've paid, even if it's not directly impacting the sales. Does that make sense, I suppose?
100%. Like, I'm not discounting that at all, saying that you shouldn't be doing that. I think you have to show value in the work that you're doing. Pure business outcomes is one of those mechanisms, but I think, for instance, SEO often takes time, right? You can't just turn a tap on and get rankings and traffic. So between the time when you start, for instance, an engagement, and then 3 months or 4 months before you start to progressively start to see the needle move, you still need to be showing a client, here's the good work we're doing and why you should continue to pay us. As we said at the start of our engagement, we expect this period of time to elapse before we'll start to see the start of the growth curve for you. Here's the stuff that we're producing for you to help us get to the growth curve, as an example. So I completely understand why it's necessary to report on some of the less business-focused elements, the intangibles, as you call it. It's critical, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm really, really, absorbed in the process of reporting, I'd love to see thoughts from whoever. If you want to ping me, I'm really interested to see what people how people are prioritizing in-house and what they're reporting, because that'd be quite useful. Great question. I love the topic of reporting. It's so essential. Because us being service providers, it's, what do we do? It's very intangible. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mika. I will do. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm fascinated and puzzled by this Google indexing, Google results thing. Did you want to tell us how you discovered that?
I don't know how we'd put it into so that the people watching could do it. I tell you what I'd rather do, if you wouldn't mind, is digress from our questions to a news item, because I don't know how long I've got you here, and I know Alistair can't stay all night. So there is a question, not a question, a news item, which is number 33 on your run list, guys. If you wouldn't mind, is that okay, Dan?
I would love to hear it.
Okay, well, this is from our news roundup. By the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Google has us #1 for current SEO news roundup, which I think is pretty cool. We'll have to provide some content to match their judgment. But look, this came about from a posting by Eric Enger about Penguin, Google's punitive algorithm, and a call to fix it. And also, I said my opinion. I said I don't think they'll run Penguin again, because it's just been just a colossal stuff up from start to finish. But look, I'd love to hear the input of everybody here on Penguin, what stage it's up to, how people deal with the frustration of seeing scammers and crooks monopolising the search engine results pages, waiting for a Google Penguin, Lucas Regala, my good friend from, I think, Poland, has a theory that Penguin has been strangled and buried in Charleston Park, just outside the Googleplex. I don't know if you guys think it's going to run again or not, but we've been a long time waiting, haven't we?
It's interesting because I think there's no doubt, for instance, that it's punitive in the way that it works. I think that's pretty clear. If you violate the guidelines to a point where this algorithm hits you, you're in a world of hurt. For small sites, this is a recoverable problem because the damage is manageable. For large sites that get hit by this, it would be a catastrophe. In my eyes, if you were to get hit by this for a very large site, with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of links, for instance, to a large brand, you would be in a world of hurt. The cleanup process for that would be epic, depending on how long, the dirty tactics and stuff have been going on.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, it's really any of the larger site level changes. Whether you're a Panda or Penguin, it's a hell of a lot of work to get your butt out of it for a larger site than it is a smaller site.
Well, so Panda, for instance, at least you can get out of that by cleaning up your own act, right?
Yes.
Whereas,
but I mean, in theory, you can do the same. In theory, you're trying to provide the work. I mean, obviously, there's a difference between like it was your own fault because it's on site versus potentially others, and you have the more control over the cleanup than you do with links. But the similarity is there in that it's still a lot of work to try to do a cleanup for a larger site because it's a domain level type thing.
Yeah, I don't dispute that it's obviously a lot of work. I just mean in a sense that the at least you hold the keys to being able to recover from Panda. Trying to get out of a Penguin penalty for a very large site, you don't really hold the keys. So I think that's a difficult prospect for a large site to be in if you were to get penalized, because you could work really, really hard and do a great job of trying to clean up stuff and never get to a point where you're let out of the box by the algorithm.
Yeah. I would just say that, you know, yeah. I think where, and I know there's disputes in views on this, where if, you know, the effort to ask them, as well as the addition of using the disavow tool, should, in theory, provide you the same kind of opportunity and to get you out of something like Penguin, because you're then essentially nuking all the links through their tool system.
Disavow tool. I was just furious the other day. I keep monitoring inbound links, right? Like, I'm laughing now every time I mention it because Tim made fun of me. But yeah, I'm checking my inbound links, and it's like crap. Oh my god, what is this? They're linking to me with word SEO from like random sites. It seems like somebody's been asking webmasters in Australia, hey, can you slip in a link on your, like somebody's actually working on it. It doesn't seem like just an automated thing. So what I've been doing is, alright, copy the link, tell my guy to put in a disavow, put it in myself, and it's like, what am I doing? I'm not supposed to be doing this. This is a waste of time. What? I'm patching up Google's crappy algorithm that doesn't work, right? Disavow, I love it. If I screw up my own links and I need to fix them up, brilliant. I love it for that. But when I realized that I'm almost daily involved in logging the links of people trying to sabotage me into the, like, Google should know better, you know. And I just felt furious. Like, I'm patching up after their mistakes. It's not right. They're crowdsourcing algorithm control.
Isn't that all of SEO?
On the plus side, isn't a similar twist to you know, vanity being a the best form of flattery, or whatever that expression is?
I'd rather not have that sort of flattery. I'm sick and tired.
You know, they're trying to knock down a tall poppy. You should be flattered.
Well, it may not be that they're knocking it down. I thought you were going down the other flattery, which is, you know, a lot of the spam sites, what they'll try to do is to get their link in there, they'll link to authority sites. Well, if they're trying to get stuff with SEO, they're going to link to another authority SEO, which, let's just say for Australia, happens to be down. You know, so like, you just may be an ancillary side benefit, quote, benefit, because they need an authority site and they're going to link to you.
And I'm going to end up receiving Penguin's wrath. Yeah.
Not if it doesn't rerun.
Exactly. Speaking of Penguin, I'm doing two things with it. One is my very first client, when I started doing SEO, he's been with me for many, many years. He had a lot of boilerplate content, a lot of SEO pages targeting every city in Texas, you know, every name, and then just changing. Their own fault they wouldn't change that against all my advice, and it was working. I felt like a bit of an ass because it worked for them for so long. I told them to change it, and they didn't change it for 2 years. And they go through Panda, and it didn't affect them. They were just flying under the radar. They made an insane amount of money. So if they had listened to my advice, they would have missed out big time, because they were against the guidelines, and it worked for 2 years extra, and they've collected millions of dollars as a result. Where do I stand here? I'm glad that they left it there. On the other side, there was a bunch of manipulative links pointing towards that domain. Small fraction, my fault. Majority was some experimentation with automation. We cleaned up, we removed the manual penalty, but then there's the penguin remaining. And I'm thinking, history of Panda, history of manual penalty revoked, but okay, penguin. You know what I did? Start over. It doesn't matter, big brand, pick a new domain, start fresh, and let's do it. And yeah, we had a big meeting, and we decided, yep, that's what's going to happen. So I have no faith in, okay, let's say you wait for this penguin to fix the problems, and what if it doesn't? It's not guaranteed with the next run of penguin that things are going to improve. I just cannot put this business in so much downtime in terms of revenue. I'd be irresponsible and reckless to recommend such things. So I just recommended, let's move to a new domain, use the old one for PPC and whatever, and let's get it back up. The second thing I'm doing in terms of Google's weakness in terms of algorithm, I'm testing some spam at the moment. We registered a bunch of test domains, or actually 2 test domains, and we're going to spam them and see how well it does. We're going to be using them for lead generation. If it does work, I'm going to keep it for a little bit before I take it down and write a post about it. And if it doesn't work, it's probably not going to be a very interesting post anyway. I might just write a quick one saying, hey, we tried this, it didn't work. Might be of some interest to people. But essentially what we're doing is we have a crawler that looks for broken links, finds unregistered domains with high authority links. We're going to probably either 301 or set up some intermediate pages and try to pump it up, because that's what all our competitors are doing. So pretty much everyone who's ranking in Google now, he's doing some sort of link manipulation, with me being chicken to do anything about it. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So I'll keep you posted with whatever the results of that experiment are. Should be interesting.
Yep. And so, do you think it's too early to hold a memorial service for Penguin?
Yeah, it'll run again. Let's bet.
People did. They bet it was going to run out like what, a couple months ago.
Yeah, a Polish guy made a prediction. I remember, but it wasn't happening.
Oh,
I think one more this year. That's my prediction.
How close do you think they're going to really run it close up to the actual holiday season and release it? Are you gonna? Do you think it's going to be because it's getting pretty close.
October 25th.
Oh man, that would be brutal to the e-commerce industry. That would
they did it last year, didn't they? Leading into Christmas.
Last year, it was last November, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we all thought, well, based on similar patterns, it should come out February, March-ish.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Alistair, I'm keeping my experiments separate in every possible way from my site.
Good.
Every possible way.
I mean, like separate hosting, separate.
To the point I registered for this. That's sort of different, right? Full separation.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Dan. Tell you what, mate. You can do a video of your findings.
Ouch.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Who Kepper, I don't know.
Who needs enemies with friends like these?
Electrician.
I can still use my Google Apps account that we're paying for as a company. I'm a client, so they're not allowed to ban me.
You would think so.
You would think so, eh? Plus, I get 15 slots in my Hangouts with that one. Did you know that?
No.
Run that past me again.
You can have 15 people in your Hangout with that one.
Oh yeah. That's what we're doing for our 100th episode, so we can fit the extra people in.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So can we consider the penguin question dead and buried? Done and dusted. All right. Can we go back to a question from Hina Shah, who couldn't believe it when she saw last week's Hangout and said, are all these questions answered today? And then came back later and said, thank you, experts. So she's obviously a very perceptive person. She's asked the question today, my business is verified, but the map doesn't appear beside my name. What should I do? When I type it into Google, the map doesn't appear. I am following the Google business guidelines too. I wonder if this is the issue where the knowledge graph is not showing up. Is that what she means? I'm guessing that's what she means. And over the last week or so, Google has been playing around with the knowledge graph. It's appearing on some and not on others. And don't fight over this one, guys.
So if she's if it's only recently been done, maybe the map isn't showing up because it's only recently been verified and Google's system needs to process it. Maybe. The other thing that I could think of that might affect this, but I don't know if it actually does, is if your business information is inconsistent between Google Plus, your Google local listing, and the business directories that you've got all of your business info in, you know, name, address, phone number, descriptions, and images, and such things. Maybe if those sorts of things are inconsistent, or maybe that it's not being reinforced, it won't show up, maybe.
Guessing by the way she's read this, I'm thinking, okay, so you've verified your Google business page. Well, it was your place page, then it was your local page, and now it's my business page. And I'm assuming when she means searches for it, so I'm assuming you type in your brand name. Do you mean appearing in the right-hand side in the knowledge info panel? You know, it's got your, you know, the actually linked to your that. Yeah, I mean, couple of things there that you want to just look at. You say you've verified it. Check that you've actually also done your email address. Check that what tends to also help is in the footer of your site itself. You want to connect this, because I'm assuming this is you're actually using this as your business page also. Connect this as Rel Publisher, and in fact Google will prompt you in your profile page or your about page. Sometimes it'll be a little prompt there saying connect this to your site. So follow that through. Also, what now I don't know if this is a be-all and end-all, but it's kind of the methodology I always approach is in the footer of your site you should obviously have the business address. And what I tend to also do is underneath that address I might have either Google Map or Find Us on, you know, and link that actually to your business page also to the map section where you know it's /about. That's your map section of the business, and by following all that, it tends to show it up. But it doesn't happen overnight. It does take a little time before Google joins all the dots. But it should ultimately start appearing. Also, if you've got a brand name where there's a few sites which are brand names, and if you search for yourself and you're not appearing position 1, there might be another site slightly different, but that's appearing above you. That could also be what's holding that from appearing in the knowledge info panel.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to declare that an answer. Hina Shah, I hope you are happy with that. I feel sure that you will be. Sheldon Goldberger asked a question for which the short answer is likely to be no, I think. He says, how to get Google Bing to ignore the query string of a URL. He said, I have an SEO question in this URL, and he gives a URL which can be seen in the SEO Questions community in Google+. And it has an ID on the end of it. He said, I'm assuming that the developer is using the final parameter for internal use and it is not relevant to the searching user. So I have two questions. How to get Google Bing to ignore the last parameter? And secondly, should the last parameter be part of the canonical? Thanks. I think that also might be useful to have a look at the comments in the this particular one from the community.
Okay.
Is my volume of speech very low, is it, Tim? No?
No, you're fine by me.
Okay, cool.
Just, give me 1 second.
All right. So let's see. I guess I could kind of jump in if Alistair's on that for the parameter part.
So,
Interesting.
so let's do the second part of this question first.
Yeah.
Should this be part of the canonical? That's a decision for Sheldon to determine whether or not the ID is part of the canonical form for that resource. If the ID is literally, if you can access that particular Jacksonville Beach, Florida home without the ID on it, and the ID has got no relevance at all to the actual property listing, then you could potentially drop it, but that's something for Sheldon to determine with their developers or vendor that runs the CMS, for instance, or whoever, but he needs to determine whether that's important or not. The first part of the question is how to get Google and Bing to ignore it. So you kind of can't, not easily. So you can't reasonably block this in robots.txt, else it would block the property listing itself. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to no-index the URL because it would obviously no-index the property listing itself, so that's no good. What you could do, if the ID is legitimately not part of the canonical form for this page, you could canonical from the URL with the ID back to the URL without the ID. And Google will drop the URL with the ID in it in the search results. And searches from Google will only ever see the base URL without the ID. So you could definitely do that, assuming that the ID isn't part of the canonical form for that URL.
Oh, muted again. Sorry, guys. Okay. So we can consider Sheldon's question answered? I think so. Here's one, question 17 from Niraj Kumar. The Google Plus page in its post is showing on the right-hand side of, the search engine results page. What is it and why? He said, I've just searched, and I'll spell it out, to KNKAYASTHA on Google, and I was signed in. The Google Plus page and its post is showing on the right. Would this be a result of like from the personalised search? By the way, there's a new feature in search that you can use. That you can in search tools you can do a drop down to choose with private listings and without while you're logged in.
Ah, that's handy. In the screenshot he shared, there are two buttons next to the gear menu. It's clear that he's getting personalized results because that's what he marked there. If you choose that globe, then he gets the non-personalized search, or just log out. No? Or
it sounds reasonable to me, Edwin. Okay, so will we call this one answered? I know we haven't done a top job on it. Well, apart from Edwin's good answer, I mean.
yeah, I think that makes sense. So in the screenshot he's got, he's definitely following this business. So Google is showing the Google Plus universal object for the business in the right-hand rail because he's following the business. In this instance, if he was possibly not logged in or not following the business, he probably wouldn't see that particular interface. For instance, when I search for that phrase, I don't see that interface.
Okay. All right. Let's move on, and I'm going to skip question 18 because we did cover it last week. Accidentally, we've included it again. Eric Bryant asks a question titled, "The knowledge graph does not show if I search from New York, what can I do?" Eric goes on to say, okay, I recently asked a question about the knowledge graph. It turns out that we do have a knowledge graph for certain locations. For example, if I search for Alvarez and Marshall, as if I'm in San Francisco. However, the knowledge graph does not show if I search from New York. Can anyone provide an answer and excuse me, and help me figure out how to get the knowledge graph to show up all the time? Sorry, I'm fighting the flu, guys. I'm doing my best.
I've never tried to actually correct this before, this sort of a problem.
From memory, he created two Google Plus pages, and he basically asked Google to remove one or to merge the two, which he succeeded, and then the knowledge graph came back. I'm pretty sure it was this question. But he stated that in the thread from last week. Because these days you can merge Google Plus pages.
You can't merge pages, but you can convert a brand page to a local page. And if you do that, then the existing local page becomes a brand page which you can delete, and then the brand page that you want to make local becomes the local, if that makes sense. But you can't merge two Google Plus pages into one.
Oh. Yeah, and then you get a backup from the other page becomes a backup.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's sort of switching. So if you have one brand and one local, and if you want to make your brand page local, then it becomes a local page, and the existing local page becomes a brand page. But you can't merge a brand and
No, indeed.
one local page.
As for displaying the knowledge graph, I mean, they have to be fairly certain that they have the right business, obviously. So maybe in New York there is an Alvarez and Marshall that is not them, maybe. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it could also be that maybe they've got a lot of business references for their business in San Francisco. Maybe that's where they started, or they've got a main office there, for instance. Maybe they don't have the same level of online presence, so to speak, for their New York office because it could be new, maybe, and they just don't have. It's just not as established online, and that is maybe having some sort of an impact on whether or not it will show up. I don't know. I've never tried to deal with that.
By the way, in answer to the question earlier on, I think I'm happy to put a link in there leading back to the question on in the SEO Questions community on Google+. But if you click on Community Answers, that will give you all of the answers asked on the community, and above it is the actual post on the community. So I guess at the time, I thought that it was superfluous to have a link back to the community, but if you guys think I should put one there, I'll certainly do that.
When I click on the Community Answers tab at the moment for them, I don't get anything showing up for me.
Oh, that might be because there's nobody on, or nobody has asked that question, or because I've got the flu at the moment, Dan has been loading the questions. And it is possible that he hasn't pulled the questions through.
Right. Well, can you just whip him for me for next week?
I'd have to get Tim. I mean, we'd have to appoint Tim the whipmaster from now on.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't want to get Vlad onto him. I mean, doesn't need to be punitive after all. Just there
I am. I'm working for a year to get Dan Petrovic on the panel, and then Tim drives him away and won't go.
No, Dan's awesome. It's out of love.
All right, Eric Bryant, I hope you're happy with that answer. Here's another one from the Raj Kumar. So many links from one website look unnatural. Is it dangerous for blog health? In the case of a blog, there are aggregators and there are followers. Once attached, they create many unwanted backlinks for the blog. Are these dangerous for my blog? And if yes, what should I do?
So, a couple of parts to this. Yeah, having a lot of links from one website on its own is not necessarily a bad thing. It may not even be unnatural. If that was only your link profile, then that would be of concern. But an individual one that is not going to be necessarily kind of a bad thing. The aggregators, yeah, aggregators can be a pain, and kind of some of the links that come in through there, that's just a bit of a natural area of the blogging industry. The question becomes, this is a significant chunk, domain-wise, of your backlinks. If not, and it's just a few individual ones, you can pretty much ignore it. If it becomes a predominant amount of your backlinks, then that may be something you want to kind of look into, whether it's the disavow tool to kind of let Google know, seeing how these are occurring. Is there certain services that you've signed up with that have made it easier for these aggregators to scrape you and hold your content? So you may want to look into that to kind of prevent them from doing that based on kind of the tools you're using. I think those are kind of the quick little ones there that offhand, just to be aware of. But I wouldn't call anything that's just so many links from a site being unnatural. You know, people put the links in their little blog rolls oftentimes for sites that they actually really like. So.
Damn it. Okay, cool. Excellent, Micah. Thank you. Next is a question from Chris M. Cloutier, a good friend of our community. Chris says, should I drop pages with messy keywords or should I fix them? Chris says, hey guys, what's up? I'm back with another dumb question. I'm wondering what you guys would do if you had a site that wasn't performing well due to inconsistent posting and bad keyword choices from the beginning. Would you just continue with the site while targeting for a new keyword in the same niche? Or would you drop it and move on to a new, fresh site? Thanks for any advice. Hopefully soon I'll know enough to join one of the Hangouts. Well, good luck with that plan, Chris. If you can get past Tim Capper, you'll be doing well.
Don't you start.
Yeah, I mean that's part of SEO, is to continue to optimize a site. You know, it's not like any site is perfect with the keyword choices they make, and then keyword terms change over time. So I would just go with fixing them rather than any kind of start over. I mean, you know, you've at least built up potentially a powerful link profile with the site. So even if some of the past keywords were not the right kinds, at least going forward, the change should at least have to show Google that the relevancy of the industry you're in around kind of set groups of terms and phrases that you think the site's about, and at least then you still keep all the relevant and valuable links that you've built up over the years. I wouldn't, you know, the inconsistent posting, not quite sure kind of what that will entail, so I won't really touch that part. But at least when it comes to kind of bad keyword choices, I mean, that's SEO. Go and optimize it and start helping that site do better.
Excellent, Micah. All right, let's move along quickly because we've still got quite a few to go. Luke Chaffee asked a question that looks like it's tailor-made for Tim Capper. Electrician does not appear as a category in a Google business account. Luke says, hi everyone, we've been having an issue for a couple of months now where one of our clients is an electrician, and whilst we're managing their Google My Business account, electrician does not appear as a category. Does anyone else have this issue? And is there a reason why Electrician wouldn't be available? And is there a way to get this fixed? A note, this is on the Australian Google My Business.
Is he sure Electrician isn't a category? I would have thought it would have been.
We have electricians in Australia, and most of our houses even have running water.
Yeah, I'm hang on a second. Let me have a quick look here. I'm looking. I've just done Oh shit. Okay. Well, we have electricians in obviously our UK listings. I've just clicked onto obviously just a random electrician's business listing, and it's quite clearly stating electrician as the category. So I mean, I'm not saying, you know, it's not correct there. I'm just saying I would have be quite surprised that they didn't have a category as an electrician. Let's say they don't have a category as an electrician in Australia, which, you know, considering that your most dangerous predator is a dingo, so it wouldn't surprise me really. But one way to work around that is you could use MapMaker to change or add to the categories as electrician, but you would need for that edit that you make to be approved or voted up by other people in MapMaker for that to be approved. But I would just double check that that category doesn't exist, because as I said, I've just looked on the UK and there are listings with electrician as the category. So just be doubly sure, double check it. If it just doesn't exist in Australia, then you can go down the MapMaker route. But you would need for that change to be approved and voted up by other users. It's ideal if you get other users to vote it up before the Google bot turns up, and then they tend to approve it then. But yeah, that is your other workaround.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, next question is from Jay Le Boutillier. What is the Google Pigeon update?
Well, didn't you answer that one, Jim?
I did at the time, but you know me, I mean, I can't remember what I did yesterday. This was 4 days ago. I did say that the first person to use the term Pigeon update was Barry Schwartz in one of Archie Watts' Hangouts. And the reason being is that Google agreed that there was an update, but they refused to give it a name. You know, I mean, why is that? You know, are they all running around like headless chooks at Google, and nobody's there to say, oh, look, we're going to call this one, or whatever. Oh, look, who knows? You know. But yeah, so this Pigeon update affected local search result. Well, the results in Google Maps and some local search impacts on the normal search results as well. But yeah, Barry Schwartz seems very keen to pronounce this the Pigeon update and claim this scalp, and why not?
Well, according to Barry Schwartz, back in 2009, Google dropped local results for web designers and SEOs. Well, now it seems some of that has come back with this new local search algorithm. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I still don't know why. I think if I want 4 tyres for my car, I should be able to put in my town and the brand of tyre that I want. And if they're listed on a website in my town, I believe Google should return them. They don't, of course. Yeah, I think that they should. And similarly, I think, you know, if somebody wants to search for, you know, middle-aged, blonde swinger, they should be able to find someone in their town, you know, instead of having to fill in profiles on dating.com and stuff. Anyway, this is not really SEO, is it? Yeah, okay, that's what the Pigeon update is, Jay. Next is one from Rita Ahuja. Can you share some SEO tools and tips so that I can have some direct visitors? I'm going to have to say Ritu's probably female, so I can get Tim Capper to answer this question. It says, hi everyone. I've noticed that most of the traffic coming to my blog is from social networking sites. Can you share some SEO tools and tips so that I can have some direct visitors?
Right, well, there isn't really an SEO tool. If you're already getting traffic from your from social networking sites, the point is the reason you're getting that is not because you've randomly just posted, you know, something from your site onto, you know, a social network. It's because you've actually taken the time to talk to people, to engage with them, and, you know, build up a rapport with them. Hence, when you've posted something, they've actually gone through and looked at your site. So now, getting some direct traffic works in a the same kind of way, but out of that social space into a more online space where you would engage and just build your brand in the online market space rather than hiding away in the social space. So the same kind of things appear there, just, you know, building up a presence, getting yourself noticed, getting your business noticed. And then, of course, people would, you know, start to understand your brand, know your brand, and equate your brand with whatever you might be particularly doing. So, you know, the thing is, it's the same kind of, obviously, it's the same kind of thing. If you think of trainers, you think of Nike, or whichever one that you've been most influenced by. If you think of ketchup, you think of Heinz ketchup. Well, I'm not sure if that's there in that country, but for me, for example, you think of ketchup, you think of Heinz ketchup. So it's kind of the same principle. You need to create that brand and take it out of the social sort of sphere, because then you will always be getting social interaction, and actually start branding yourself out there. You could start doing that with, you know, AdWords. You could start engaging with people within your industry who write both online and offline. So whether it be newspapers, you know, in the online world and the offline world, engaging with other blogs and people that are in the same sphere. You could build up a rapport with them, either publish something of theirs onto your site or something of yours onto their site, and that's how you start building up your online presence rather than your social presence. But you've obviously done something in your social sphere because you're getting traffic there. You need to take that and that kind of what you're doing in that communication and that engagement away out of the social thing. Obviously don't stop it, but take it out of there and kind of replicate it into the more online mainstream world.
Top answer, Tim. I'm going to call that a slam dunk. Next is one from Gabriel Partanini. Should I host business videos on my website or store them on YouTube with a link embedded in the website? What's the best SEO video practice?
If Dan was around, he says, host your own.
I'll jump in with this too because I think it's a fascinating question. It's stuff that I've come across. And I think it could potentially be go with what works best for you, or even do both. The reason kind of for that is there's hosting your own. You have the ability to get people to embed it and get things from it, whereas YouTube is a search engine that is one of the second largest, at least on the U.S. side, and is a very large area where if you can get a lot of traffic by the YouTube video you're hosting through the YouTube search engine, then that's also a large win as well. So plus there's, well, usually at least still, there's also video results which can go for both ends, but it is often easier if it's on YouTube. So depending on kind of what's going to work best for your business, it may be one or the other. So let's say the YouTube video is going to be more B2B and it's not going to be a YouTube traffic driver, and probably having hosting your own videos so that you have more of a possibility with getting backlinks directly to your page and through your video would be a better route to go. But yeah, if you're expecting to get a lot of traffic and working through kind of the YouTube system, then you may want to go with a YouTube video over kind of trying to get links through your own business video.
And of course, the other consideration is whether his web host allows or provides video streaming. It's not an inconsiderable thing.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, Preeti Astri from Preeti SEO in India asks, my website is not ranking well, although it has good page authority, domain authority, page rank, and a number of backlinks. Preeti goes on to say, I'm working on a site, the imperialindia.com. It's not ranking well. There is one competitor, Devarana, D-V-A-R-A-N-A.in, which is lagging in every aspect, yet it still ranks well for many keywords. Can you please suggest to me, can you please give me your thoughts?
Maybe poor content targeting, potentially. I mean, maybe certainly got plenty of big fat links pointing to it, like big, juicy links. Looking at it in Open Site Explorer, it's fantastic. Really good.
It's a lovely site. It makes me want to go and stay there.
It seems kind of in check, really. Okay, so as a cursory thing I would do initially, I would, if you haven't already, verify the site in Webmaster Tools, and then check all of the standard reports in there to make sure that, one, the site doesn't have a penalty for some reason. I would find that hard to imagine, but you never know. Make sure that the content that you've submitted, if you've got XML sitemaps listed, available, that from an indexing standpoint, that it's been indexed. A site colon search shows about 75 pages indexed already, so that's probably a pretty good sign. But you could actually have a lot more content on the site than that. You're not blocking anything that shouldn't be blocked in the robot subtext, which is good. I'd check to make sure that you're getting good visibility in Webmaster Tools with regards to how many impressions that your site's showing up for, and the clicks that it's showing up for, and what type of content or phrases Google is showing you that you're ranking for in Webmaster Tools, to see whether or not you're showing up somewhere for the phrases that you're interested in, or are you just not showing up at all and there's something else entirely wrong. So I'd do some investigations on that front before, as an initial step, I think. I'm just crawling it, see if that shows up anything.
Well, let's ask Preeti to re-ask this question. So
Yeah,
we go ahead, Tim.
A couple of things. I just clicked on. Hang on, what did I just click on? Oh yeah, in your. Hang on, I'm just trying to find out the page. Okay, so the first thing I just found is right. Let me just go back to your homepage. Bear with me. Yeah, in that nav bar that you've got kind of like floating up there. So rooms and suites, yes, it drops down. But if you actually click the rooms and suites, so the URL is then rooms -suites-menu. That's actually a 404 page. I'm just seeing if the others are also. No, restaurant actually goes through to restaurant. Meeting rooms goes through to meeting rooms. Okay, so you need to check that rooms and suites one. Just double check some other ones there. It's a nice site. One thing I would say is your actual rooms, I would put a price in there. At least from, you don't have to give the price on the day, but at least starting at, here's some inconsistencies with titles. So I've just gone from the deco room. Deco room, basically your title on that is the Imperial. Well, okay. I would, call it hotel, because you are technically a hotel. But anyway, so it's the Imperial -deco room. That's it. That is your title on that. But then if I click through to the Imperial room, you've got luxurious hotel in New Delhi, the Imperial room. Okay, I get that, but now you need to try and make these things consistent across the board. If we then go back to the heritage room, it's all of a sudden gone back to just, hey, I'm not describing it very well. It just says the Imperial Heritage Room. So you need some consistency across the board. Yeah, Art Deco is same again. It just says the Art Deco. I would personally, I'd look at a from button on there with a price, because you can mark up that price. Yeah, I think Alistair's crawling for any internal faults, so that should come up in a second.
I can see a bunch of stuff in here that you probably want to look into. I'm going to take a stab and say that at some point the site was rebuilt, not so long ago, into WordPress, because I can see 404 errors inside the site linking to pages like /HTML/history.htm, which is 404 at the moment. And I'm sure probably at some point there was a page on that URL. Similarly, I can see 404 errors for things like /facilities/imperial referral plans.php, whereas the new site that's under WordPress obviously doesn't use extensions, it just uses a trailing slash in the URL. So on that front, if the site has actually been rebuilt in recent times, I would make sure that you go and audit all of your old links, like all of the URLs for your old site. Go and get a list of those out of server logs, Google Analytics, wherever you need to get them, and then go and implement 301 redirects on all of those old URLs to the corresponding equivalent new URL within the site. Because let's just assume for a moment that all of your old URLs had quite a number of deep links within the content in your site. Now that theoretically a lot of those URLs are 404ing, producing 404 errors, all of the links that are pointing to those pages are currently not helping your site. They kind of just evaporate and Google ignores them. So you might have found, for instance, when you rebuilt your website that your rankings have dropped. Well, that could be one of the reasons why. The title tag targeting that Tim mentioned is also not fantastic. That definitely needs work across the site, pretty much. And what other things did I find? You've got a whole bunch of pages with no H1 tag. 45 of them, in fact, have got no H1 tag on them that I could get to. You've got a bunch of broken links within the site. Again, that's not catastrophic, but you should fix them. You're referencing CSS files that don't exist. What other things?
Yeah, Alistair, you're right. I'm just looking at a couple of links to the site, and there are quite a few links which have been linked to the site from very good sources, BBC, other travel guides, things like this, but are broken because of the new URL structure, which has not been redirected to the current URL structure from the old one. So you're definitely losing or missing out on a lot of equity there. You should have those all show up in your Webmaster Tools. If you go into your Webmaster Tools, they'll be showing up as 404s. And what you can do is basically just work your way through them. Work your way through them with 404s. You can cross-reference them with linked pages also in the site. It should, if you go into links to my site and then you know, if you cross-reference them with linked pages in the site, and then you will actually start creating a pattern and see, you know, and you can break it down. Sometimes you might have a page which is just, you know, on the old site it might have been something, I don't know, something really random. It could have just been, yeah, for example, oh, I don't know, it could have just been your contact us page, or whatever the case may be, that you don't really need now on there, or it could have been this, you know, like a facial or something like that. Something like that, you know, if you can't redirect it to the next possible page, then that's fine. You can leave that as a 404. But what you do want to do is just cross-reference the old pages, which are appearing as 404s, to linked pages in your webmaster tools, also in the linked section. Cross-reference those, and, you know, start working out, because you have got some fantastic links which unfortunately are broken because those old pages haven't been one, like Alistair said.
Yeah, you've got some cracking stuff that needs to get fixed. My very first port of call, if I was you, would be to address what we just spoke about with all of these broken inbound links because of your site redesign. That would be my immediate action next week, or this weekend, or talk to your developer tomorrow and export all of the old links for your entire site and implement the 301 redirects like we spoke about to the corresponding equivalent page inside your new site, because there is a heap of really great inbound links that are 404ing at the moment, and yeah, not helping you at all.
Should officially call this doing a Ryanair.
Oh.
The other thing I just noticed then, do you see where they have their booking? There's a huge block of code for their booking widget on the left. That's on the left if you have a look at the source. And it looks like they have to run that, like cut and paste it into Notepad and cut and paste it out again before they put it back on the site, because it looks like it's got some special characters in there that don't actually show up. Do you see those there, or am I wrong?
Say that again, Jim. What are we looking for?
Well, they may be characters that show up inside the booking widget, but I'm looking at the source for the booking widget, and it's got the left and right arrows. Do you see that there? They're inside the links, or maybe they are genuine. Maybe they are right. Maybe I'm just an idiot.
Can you see this in the interface? Like something sort of looks a bit weird.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm looking at it in the source code of the home page, but now that I look at it, it probably is meant to be there. Although I can't see the character repeated in the widget. But yeah, from the position of the code, it's probably okay. Forget I spoke. All right, Preeti, let's look at this again next week. Please ask this question again, and we'd love to deal with it to see how it went. If you could report on progress, because it's just an absolutely beautiful site. Just be nice to see it working properly. David Mason has a question, question 27 on your run list. Why the date is only shown in Google search engine results pages and not in Yahoo or Bing? David says, "Hey everyone, thanks for the great support." I think it's really nice when people acknowledge what we do. It really is nice. Anyway, David, thank you, David. The question is, I'm now seeing a date in my meta description for my WordPress pages. I activated and embedded my Google Analytics code into my theme on the 19th. This is only happening in Google search engine result pages and not in Yahoo or Bing. I'm running the Yoast SEO plugin. The most recent change I've made to my page was on July 25, and Google's case shows July 28th. I'm stumped, and thank you for your thoughts.
So the reason that it shows up in Google, for instance, and not in others is just simply they're different search engines, and they implement the interface and the search results differently. So that's that part of it. That's just a choice Google makes. Sometimes they show dates, sometimes they don't. The other search engines change their interfaces when they feel like it as well. In Google's instance, if they can identify the publication date or the edit date of an article, they tend to display it in the SERPs where they think that it's relevant to give, searchers in Google an idea of when that particular article was published and its recency, I suppose. Sometimes they get it wrong. If you've got other dates on a page that are sort of, they look like they might be a publication date when in fact they're not. For instance, if you said in a block of text near a heading on July 28th, 2014 as a string, and it was published on the 25th, for instance, that might confuse Google because their algorithms, for instance, might look for headings and then look for nearby text that basically has a date that they can identify, like the July 28th, 2014, prefixed by things like on, i.e. posted on, and then a date. And sometimes they get confused by that, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. I don't think that's anything to concern yourself with.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to our last question for the evening before we get on to our news roundup. John McLeod asks a question about, he says, the impressions and clicks went down by 40%, but the website ranks well on selected keywords. How is that possible? I can read the whole question. He said, hi all, the rankings of my website is still there for the keywords I was tracking, but in Google Webmaster Tools, the impressions and clicks went down by 40%. I don't understand how that is possible. Am I doing anything wrong? How can I know what actually happened?
Seasonal? Because it's summer? Or?
Yeah, well, if it was a gradual decline over a few weeks, it could be a seasonal thing, like Edwin suggests. Maybe if it was quite a sharp change, in like over 1 day or 2 days, for instance, the traffic just dropped by 40%. That's not going to be seasonal. In general, I wouldn't think. In which case, I would probably start looking at whether or not those drops are reflected in your web statistics inside Google Analytics or what other tool you might be using to track your website, to see whether or not it's real. Are you actually getting 40% less clicks for those relevant phrases into the relevant landing pages that they should be sending traffic to? It's possible, for instance, that, just to give you a little bit of insight, John, that you could let's say websites that were linking to you, for instance, in the past, Google has devalued them for some reason, and now as a result of them devaluing the sites that are linking to you, certain sections of your website might rank lower in the search results than they did before. And this change is something where Google would basically come up on a given day and then, boom, all of this big network of websites, the rankings or the equity that flows from those sites to your site has dropped. And subsequently, your rankings for those relevant keywords or that section of your website has been affected as a result of those changes as well. So yeah, I would investigate what's in Google Webmaster Tools versus Google Analytics and see if the data lines up. If it does, see if you can identify the specific keywords. If you can, see whether or not it's in Google Analytics. Segment that pool of keywords or those landing pages inside your site that have been affected, and see whether or not it's a certain audience around the world, for instance, that might be affected. For instance, maybe you're ranking okay still in Australia, but for people that are searching for your site in the UK, the rankings have changed substantially for your site, but only in google.co.uk, for instance. And try and dig into the analytics a little or understand where that impact has happened. Similarly, you can do that also in Google Webmaster Tools. In the queries report, you can segment that by country and web search, images, etc. as well, filter by keyword, to give you some quick insight there too. Not as granular, obviously, as Google Analytics, but it's still useful.
Excellent. Okay. We've done it again. We've covered all of the questions asked this week on the SEO Questions community on Google+. And now we move to our... yes, Alistair, look, thank you very much for your contributions tonight. I think it was a great hangout.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Happy to help out. So
Okay.
I'll leave you guys to discuss your news, and I'll hopefully talk to you next week.
Excellent, mate. Look forward to it.
See you, everyone. See you, Masataki.
Okay, so we have an item posted by Tony McCreath on the story of Spain's Google tax. As has happened elsewhere, France, Belgium and Germany come quickly to mind. Tony says, Spanish newspaper editors have been arguing for a long time that Google is taking an unfair advantage of them. I think that what Google will do is simply cease to take advantage of them, and the editors will come running back.
What I think what happened in was it Belgium or Germany? It is in the article that basically Google stopped giving them traffic, or they stopped displaying the publishers that demanded money. And in this case, it's almost the same where Google News in Spain, Google might stop Google News in Spain, and thereby trying to avoid that particular tax. And now some members of some commission are trying to work out a system where they still can demand text for Google, even if Google is not showing the publishers in their search results. So it's quite an intriguing story in the sense that whatever Google would do, they are going to tax Google no matter what.
Well, good luck with that plan. I mean, they can't even get Google to pay the normal taxes anywhere in the world. How are they going to get them to pay an unfair tax?
Yeah. Well, if you cannot tax them fairly, then unfairly might be the next best thing. It doesn't make sense the way the Spanish government treats Google, but Google isn't treating the tax authorities nicely too. So, yeah. I'm a little bit in the middle on this one.
Well, I'm probably on the side of Google, really. People should, I mean, if you get a site ranked, if you get content ranked, then think of another way to monetize it. I think the days of owning content are long gone.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Yes. On the other hand, good journalism is expensive. What I understand from the article is that the text is being used. Let me see. I think they wanted to give to a foundation or something. Furthermore. Furthermore, such text is to be administrated by a third party. In a similar way, what SGAA, the Spanish I or AA, does with music rights. In this case, most likely, some organization, the entity that collects fees for the use of written text, photocopies, and so on, how much it is to be paid and how the proceeding would be split among editors has not been disclosed. So some part of the text will be given back to the publishers or the editors, thereby making sure that they have good journalism. I don't know. I think it is wrong law, but who am I?
Yeah, I think Google will end up paying a lump sum, the negotiators lump sum, sort of contribution to journalism kind of thing. I think they did that in France, didn't they? So
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we consider this one covered.
Sure.
The next one, I'm not sure how this one ended up staying on our SEO news community, because it's number 30 on our run list. It's not really news, is it? It's more
no, it's self-promotion, Jim.
Yeah, it should
Plus
really.
won it. That's why I didn't remove it.
Sorry, what was that?
You plus one it. That's why I didn't remove it.
Why did I do that, I wonder?
Did I? I didn't plus one it, did I?
I was about to remove it, as far as I recall, and then I realized that Jim, you plus one it. So I thought, okay.
Oh, Jim plus one it. Oh.
Yeah. I thought, oh, I better keep it.
Yeah,
keep it.
You did. I'm going to take a screenshot of this.
Well, feel free to. I must have been delirious. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, let's pass on that one.
Blame the cold.
Next one is from. I wish I could learn how to pronounce Thaddeus's name. It's Shusik, I think. Is that close, Edwin? Apparently not.
No, I think it's Shevchik.
Run it past me again, Mr. Tagi.
I think it's Tadeusz Shevchik.
Shevchik, okay.
Shoemaker, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, Thaddeus remarked on an impressive piece of Linkbait that TripAdvisor, who are always sailing very close to the wind, if not completely on the wrong side of it. But they put in a hotel which doesn't exist into their listings. And of course, lots of people are linking to it.
Actually, the author of that article is David Iwanau, and Thaddeus shared it.
Ah, right. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Well, is there any point to discussing this good piece of Linkbait?
No, but it is always interesting when a big company does it, no?
Yeah.
Was it
All
a
right.
tie-up?
Yes, go ahead.
Was it a tie-up between the film and the company? It's quite interesting how they work this out. You know, who's benefiting more from the arrangement?
I'm not sure if it was an arrangement, because there's no mention about the DVD, and there's no mention at all about that fictional hotel in that movie. So.
All right, moving right along to the next one is from Tony McCreath. Meet the online tracking device that is virtually impossible to block. This is an interesting new tracking method that I've seen in a few places. The basic idea is to gather machine and browser data of a request and turn it into a signature that uniquely identifies that browser. That way you can track people without needing cookies. These trackers aim to report on individual users' activity. It has to be limited. One small change, like a browser upgrade, would probably change a signature and break the tracking. And it's also browser-specific and not user-specific, so no cross-device tracking is possible.
Yeah, and one of the popular widgets that was using this was Add This, and I think Mastaki had it on his website, didn't you?
Yeah, and I thought I should remove it. But Add This is quite popular. I think you find it everywhere. So the potential reach is quite must be quite extensive.
Yeah, and there was another article where you could this was the article. See your browser fingerprint. I tested that with two computers, and indeed, it is a slightly different. It's amazing.
I wonder
isn't it?
how the outcomes of using a user ID like this would comply with the statements made in the average privacy policy.
Well, I think for Add This, it's so broad that it's probably okay.
But it would be possible. I mean, using something like that, it would be possible to, like for argument's sake, somebody who actually made a purchase, you know everything about that person, their address and financial details and so on. You would, using this method, be able to track those people, or at least those people and everybody else that had a browser and host name match.
Yeah, it's for tracking purposes. And you cannot block this. So even I think even if you are incognito mode, your computer will draw the same image as if it wasn't in incognito mode. So it's not nice.
That's a bit of an understatement.
Yes, it's sarcastic.
All right, let's move on from that one. We skipped the next one because we did cover it earlier. So we're now, we're now covered. We've now covered everything. Okay. Well, look, we still have viewers watching us, and I thank you for that, because you being interested in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. I'm going to put a link, or there is a link to this Hangout on the event page. I'll also put a link in the SEO Questions community on the first post. So you're more than welcome to come and join us. We'll be going to Green Room now. It won't be publicly broadcast, and you're more than welcome to share our chat afterwards.